Alright everyone, welcome back. Before we jump into one of nature's most mind-bending survival tricks, let me just take a quick second to send some good vibes your way. To everyone watching right now, wherever you are in the world, I genuinely hope you're feeling strong, healthy, and taking good care of yourselves. Wishing you all wellness and happiness. Health is truly the greatest wealth. Okay, get ready to have your perception of life and death completely challenged, because today we're talking about frogs. Not just any frogs, but incredible amphibians that literally turn into frog cycles during winter, freezing solid as a rock, only to thaw out in spring and hop away like nothing happened. That's right, frogs can freeze solid and come back to life. It sounds like science fiction, but it's pure, amazing science fact happening in forests and wetlands right now. Imagine the scene, a deep, cold winter in places like the forests of Alaska, Canada, or the northern United States. The ground is frozen hard, covered in snow. Temperatures plunge far below freezing, staying there for weeks or months. Most animals have either migrated south, dug deep burrows, or are hibernating in a state of deep sleep. But for the star of our show, the remarkable wood frog, Rana sylvatica, and a few other species like the spring peeper and the Cope's gray tree frog, survival means doing something almost unthinkable. They allow themselves to freeze. Solid. Think ice cube. Think statue. Think completely, utterly frozen. Their heart stops beating. Their blood stops flowing. They don't breathe. They don't move. By all standard definitions we'd use for any other animal, they would be considered dead. But come spring, when the warmth returns and the ice melts, something miraculous happens. These frozen frogs thaw out, their hearts start beating again, their blood flows, they start breathing, and within hours or days, they are hopping around, looking for food and mates, perfectly fine. How on earth is this possible? It's all about an incredible biological strategy called freeze tolerance, and it involves some serious biochemical wizardry happening inside their cells. It doesn't happen instantly, and it's definitely not something every frog can do. Only specific species that live in these brutally cold climates have evolved the superpower. As autumn arrives and temperatures start to drop, these frogs begin an incredible internal preparation. This isn't passive freezing, it's a highly active, controlled process orchestrated by their bodies. The most crucial part of this prep work involves manufacturing massive amounts of special natural antifreeze. For the wood frog, the primary superhero molecule is glucose. Yes, the same sugar that gives us energy. But in the frog's case, it's produced in enormous quantities, flooding their bloodstream and saturating their cells. Other freeze-tolerant frogs might use different molecules, like glycerol or urea, but the principle is similar. Think of this glucose like a protective syrup. Its job is twofold. First, it drastically lowers the freezing point of the fluids inside the frog cells. Second, and perhaps even more importantly, it makes those fluids more concentrated. Why is concentration important? It has to do with water. Water is the key player in freezing, and water behaves in predictable ways. When ice forms outside the cells, it sucks water molecules out of the cells through a process called osmosis. If nothing stopped it, the cells would shrivel up and die as they lost all their water. Conversely, if ice crystals started forming inside the delicate machinery of the cell, they would act like tiny knives, shredding the cell membranes and structures beyond repair. This is what causes frostbite in humans and kills most other animals that freeze. Freeze-tolerant frogs have evolved brilliant solutions to both problems. The massive dose of glucose, or glycerol/urea, inside their cells acts like a sponge, holding onto water molecules, making it much harder for water to leave the cell. This prevents the cell from dehydrating and shriveling. Even more cleverly, the frog's body actually encourages ice to form, but only in safe places. Special proteins in their blood act as nucleators. These are like tiny seeds that give ice crystals a specific place to start forming, but crucially, they direct this freezing to happen outside the cells, in the spaces between cells, in the body cavity, and even within the blood vessels, but not inside the cells themselves. So, the water outside the cells freezes first, guided by these nucleators. As the temperature drops further, more and more of the frog's body water turns to ice. We're talking a significant amount, up to about 60 or 70% of the total water in their body can freeze. The frog becomes rigid. Its skin turns icy and hard. Its eyes become opaque and white. Inside, ice crystals fill the abdominal cavity, surround the organs, and even form between muscles. Blood plasma freezes solid. The heart completely stops. No heartbeat, no pulse. Breathing ceases entirely. Brain activity flatlines. Metabolic processes grind to a complete halt. By any conventional measure, this frog is a goner. It's essentially in a state of suspended animation, preserved in ice. This frozen state can last for weeks or even months, enduring temperatures as low as -6 degrees Celsius or colder, surviving multiple freeze-thaw cycles if winter weather is unpredictable. They are, quite literally, biological popsicles. Now, the million-dollar question: how do they come back? How does this frozen block of frog ice turn back into a living, breathing, hopping amphibian when the spring sun warms the ground? The process is just as carefully managed as the freezing, and it relies on the very things that protected them during the freeze, the location of the ice and the protective sugars. As the environment warms up, the ice outside the cells starts to melt first. This isn't just passive thawing. The frog's circulatory system, once the heart gets a signal to restart, plays a vital role. That enormous concentration of glucose inside the cells? It protected them from freezing and dehydration during the freeze, but now it serves another critical purpose. It's a massive, instantly available energy source. As the ice in the body cavity and between the tissues melts, the frog's heart, incredibly, starts beating again. One of the first things this newly revived circulatory system does is rush that glucose-rich blood to the vital organs, especially the brain and the heart itself, delivering a huge burst of energy exactly where it's needed most to kickstart metabolic processes. Think of it like jump-starting a car with a completely dead battery. That flood of glucose is the high-powered jumper cable. Within a very short time, sometimes just minutes after thawing starts, but often taking several hours, you'll see signs of life. Gills or lungs might start very shallow breathing movements. Limbs might twitch. Gradually, color returns to the skin and eyes. The frog begins to regain muscle control. Its metabolism, which was at absolute zero, ramps back up. Within a day or so, often less, the frog is completely functional, moving, breathing normally, responding to its environment. The glucose levels in its blood and cells, which were sky-high, gradually return to normal as it uses up this emergency fuel or converts it back to stored energy. Remarkably, studies show these frogs don't seem to suffer significant long-term damage from their icy ordeal. They go on to eat, mate, and reproduce just like frogs that didn't freeze. It's a complete, functional resurrection. So, how does all this biochemical magic prevent the cells from being destroyed? It boils down to minimizing the two big killers during freezing: cell dehydration and intracellular ice formation. By forcing the ice to form outside the cells, thanks to the nucleating agents, and by packing the cells full of glucose, which binds water and makes the cell contents too syrupy to freeze easily, the frog keeps its cells intact. The ice crystals that form between cells might push things around a bit, but they don't rupture the delicate cell membranes or shred the vital organelles inside like mitochondria or the nucleus. The high sugar concentration also helps stabilize cell membranes and proteins, preventing them from falling apart under the stress of dehydration and cold. It's a perfectly orchestrated protection plan operating at the cellular level. This incredible ability isn't just a cool party trick, it has profound implications. Scientists are intensely studying these freeze-tolerant frogs, particularly the wood frog, to understand exactly how their cells survive processes that would be lethal to almost any other complex animal. They want to know the precise roles of glucose, glycerol, urea, and the nucleating proteins. They are studying how the cells protect their structures and how they manage to restart complex functions like heartbeat and brain activity after being completely shut down. Why? Because this research could revolutionize human medicine, particularly in the fields of organ transplantation and trauma care. Imagine if we could safely put donated organs on ice, not just for hours, but for days or weeks, by mimicking the frog's protective strategies, vastly increasing the time window for transplantation and the distance organs could travel. Imagine if doctors could induce a similar state of suspended animation in critically injured patients, slowing down or halting cellular damage to buy crucial time for surgery and treatment, essentially putting life on pause during extreme trauma. The frog's natural cryopreservation techniques offer a blueprint that scientists are desperately trying to decode for human benefit. Of course, this superpower has limits. The frogs need to be in a safe spot when they freeze, hidden under leaf litter, buried in soil, or tucked into a log crevice, protected from being crushed or eaten while they're defenseless popsicles. The freeze has to happen relatively slowly to allow their protective mechanisms time to activate fully. A sudden plunge into extreme cold might overwhelm their system. And there's a limit to how low the temperature can go and how long they can stay frozen before damage does eventually occur. But within the parameters of their environment, it's an astonishingly successful strategy. It allows them to inhabit cold regions where other amphibians simply couldn't survive the winter, giving them access to habitats with less competition. The next time you see a frog, especially if you're walking through a chilly northern forest in spring, take a moment to appreciate the hidden resilience within that small creature. That unassuming amphibian might be a survivor of an icy death that would claim almost any other vertebrate. The ability of frogs like the wood frog to freeze solid and come back to life is one of the most dramatic and inspiring examples of adaptation in the animal kingdom. It challenges our fundamental ideas about the boundaries between life and death. It showcases the incredible power of evolution to find solutions to extreme challenges. And it offers a beacon of hope, showing us that nature has already figured out ways to overcome biological hurdles that we humans are still struggling with. These frozen frogs are not just surviving winter, they are living lessons in biochemistry, cellular protection, and the sheer tenacity of life. It's a humbling reminder that nature's ingenuity often surpasses our wildest imaginations. Thanks for joining me to explore this chilly miracle. Stay warm, stay curious, and take good care.